Hi, I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Media and APC Technologies. We are at the Seagray 2023 Grid of the Future Symposium. And these interviews are with the leaders at Seagray and the leaders of the industry. Hope you enjoy. My next guest is Wayne Bishop, a friend. And this is the fourth time I've interviewed you, right? So we have nothing more to talk about. We're done. Thank you. That's it.
There's always something to talk about with you, Alan.
Wayne is the vice president of Quanta Technologies, which is a division of Quanta Services. We'll talk a little bit about that. Your boss, Demir, just talked a lot about it, but brilliant presentation. You're also the vice president of meetings for IEEE or PES. What other titles do you do? I'm trying to get you to be on a board with me, so you got to get permission to do that.
I'm on a couple of advisory boards.
Okay.
One of them that I just joined, it's industry, but non-IEEE, non-Seagray, is I'm on the board of advisors for the School of Science and Engineering at Merrimack College, north of Boston. So I just was asked recently to join that. My term actually ends as IEEE PES Vice President of Meetings and Conferences the end of this year.
Yeah.
Under the bylaws, 5-year max. So I'm done at the end of December. Yeah.
So there's another role, though.
There definitely is, for sure. As you know, Alan, you were heavily involved with the Grid Edge Technologies Conference and Exhibition. So I've been asked to chair that conference.
Okay.
The next one will be in January of 2025 in San Diego.
If invited, we're coming and doing these interviews here because we did them again.
Awesome. We'd love to have you.
Wayne is one of the most purposeful people that I know. I mean, you don't do anything that doesn't, because you're wearing your pink shirt right now, and you're doing that for what reason?
Well, October is actually Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Right.
And both of us have had relatives and friends near and dear to our hearts that have had breast cancer, and we want to make the people around us aware that this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So
yeah, well done. I give my $5 extra on the Delta flights because they always now gather money on the October flights. But anyway, I want to talk about, well, we're going to get into the Seagray part of this at the end, but I want to talk about change, because since you've been in the industry, and you mentioned this to me, and there seems to have been these dynamic change periods. We are probably in the most dynamic change period since 2003 when the Northeast grid went out, right?
That's right.
That woke everybody up. We're all waking up to a new realization: digitalization, decarbonization, diversification, the 4 Ds is how I remember them. But there's so much going on in the industry. As you work, as you're getting to know, because you've been with Quanta, what, a year?
Just a year, just over a year. Yep.
So you're seeing a company that does a lot of work globally with what Demir called the flexibility of the grid. Talk about some of the most important dynamic changes you've been seeing in the last 5 years.
Change is the operative word. I like to say that we've seen more changes in the last 10 years than we've seen in the last 100 years.
I agree.
And the changes are phenomenal. And what makes these changes so phenomenal is that the customer is driving these changes. It's really a revolution that's happening.
The customer, the ratepayer.
That's right. So yeah, when I got into the industry back in the early 1990s, 1991 timeframe, we didn't even call them customers. We called them ratepayers. Ratepayers, right? And you know, they were just called meters almost. They were just looked at as meters, but now they're actual people. Utilities have chief customer officers as an officer role. They're getting out there, talking with the customers. Well, why are they doing this? The customers are installing Nest thermostats. They're putting heat pumps in their houses. They're suddenly plugging in these EVs. They're putting in these power banks in their garages and so forth. They're looking at how they can be more efficient, but they're also asking more questions. The customers these days are a lot more educated. So they're asking, okay, where does my power come from? How much am I using? How can it be more efficient?
Well, we think of demand for a utility, right? We always think of demand generation, right? We got, what's the demand load that we want to do? We create power, we make a big pipeline called transmission. So we send it down, and then we have a load of demand. You know what demand is now? Consumers demanding change.
That's right.
And some of them are becoming prosumers.
Prosumers.
I deliver power to you. You got to take it when I want it. You got to give it when I need it. That's a complex technical solution that we need in the industry.
Right. And that's the other thing too, is this power it used to go in one direction in the old days, right? Now it's bi-directional. It's going in both ways. Power is flowing in both directions. So we have the bi-directional power flow. We have microgrids. Energy storage is sort of the holy grail, right? For DERs, distributed energy resources, and solar and wind and offshore wind. And that's what we're talking about today here at Seagray, is all these panels are about all these changes. And if there's one thing that's happening is this industry is an exciting industry to be part of, but people are wanting and needing to be more educated. And that's what I'm seeing as a big change in IEEE, PES, and events like Seagray. They are coming here to learn about these changes. It's from each other. Utilities exchanging information, best practices, lessons learned.
Obviously, we met when you were at Omicron, and then when you went to Quanta, I questioned, what is Wayne doing in his career? Talk about Quanta a little bit. What do you see there that excites you?
Sure. So it's interesting that you asked that. I was working at Omicron at the time, and I gave a talk to a group of undergrad engineering students, juniors and seniors, and I was invited to come in and give a talk, what's happening in the electric power industry. So my talk was on the top 10 things that are happening in the electric power industry, and I kind of dubbed it after David Letterman. Remember when he used to have the top 10 and then he'd throw the postcard behind him and smash the window would smash. So I had the top 10 changes that are happening in the electric power industry. And I went through them all. And number one was customer, of course. There were microgrids, energy storage, offshore wind happening, and all of these changes happening. So I went through it and I said, wait a minute. Quanta technology is really involved in all of these changes one way or another. I checked all the boxes. So I said, you know what? I finished what I needed to do at Omicron. It was a great time that I had there, left on excellent terms. Now my last, I call it the back nine in golf. I'm at Quanta for the end of my career, for the next 10 years or so. And they checked all the boxes. They're involved in all of those different technologies, plus a lot of what I would call the traditional things too. Transmission studies, reliability, resiliency, and some of our challenges too as well, like AI, machine learning, cybersecurity, OT issues, things like that.
So it's an exciting time. The president of Quanta Technologies developed a patent on something back in the day, a long time ago, that today is called AI. But I can't remember what it was, but it was something along there. So, I mean, you've got a leader that is very ingrained in change and what's happening.
Oh, absolutely. Even though he founded the company as president of it, it's all about the team to him. In fact, I look at a mouse pad every day on my desk, and it says, teamwork is wanting and helping your colleagues to succeed. And that's our mantra throughout the company. And it should be really throughout the industry, right? That's how we're going to continue to meet these challenges that we have happening in the industry.
Yeah, and the problems are not localized, they're global, and you cannot country by country solve a problem anymore. You've got to say, no, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about Seagray in a minute that I love about Seagray. It is significantly global. IEEE is global, Seagray global. The problems are global, the solutions are global. You mentioned something, and I know this is a passion of yours, so I want to go back to it. Next generation network here, the NGN. And I just interviewed the chairman of that, James Berger, I think is the chairman. But I know women in power systems and next generation is a passion of yours. Again, purposeful, right? You're very purposeful about it. Talk about the NGN here at Seagray and what's happening at IEEE on that front.
Well, as we all know, it has been happening for a while now, this huge brain drain in our industry, right? The baby boomers are retiring or have retired, so we have this huge knowledge loss walking out the door. So we had to replace them anyways. And but complicating it further is that we have all these new technologies coming into the industry. So not only do we need to replace those existing workers, but now we have all these new technologies, electric vehicles, studying interconnections of DVRs, energy storage, plus the challenges of cybersecurity, physical security, and so forth. So we need good engineers to take their place. There's a workforce shortage. Unfortunately, we have less students going in to study power engineering. So it's all of our job, my job, your job, everybody in the industry to talk about the industry, how exciting it is, so we can attract more young people. And I don't think this starts in high school or college. It really starts in grammar school. It starts in the younger ages to talk up engineering, talk about it. But the other interesting thing is we're finding that the utilities are not only hiring power engineers, but they're looking outside power engineering as well. So they found that they need to hire computer scientists, data scientists, mechanical engineers, even people with project management experience, communications experience to go before the regulators and explain what's happening with all these changes that are happening. So it's this multifaceted skills approach. But overall in the industry, yeah, we need to attract more people to the industry. And at the same time, the electric utilities have a big competitor for talent. And that is these new players in the industry, right?
Yeah.
Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and all the new companies that are now getting involved in our industry.
There's a DOE report it was started in 2020, and it said that we're not talking about the management level or the engineer level. We're talking about the worker level. Okay, roll a truck out, and you got to have a couple of people that can actually work on the lines and do that. There's going to be an annual 13% increase in the demand for them, and there's an annual 8% decrease in people retiring, because that's happening there too. Well, if you look at it, that's a huge gap every year. That started in 2021. We're in 2023 at the end of it. It didn't get better. And it's just like this widening thing. You can extrapolate and say, oh, we're in trouble. What that means is you're going to rely on the machines to tell you what's wrong. You're going to not do as much maintenance on a time basis. You're going to do condition-based.
Condition-based maintenance.
So talk a little bit about that dynamic change to replace an aging workforce that we are not going to replace. That's not a solution.
That's right. So some of that is going to change. Obviously, as you said, we're moving more toward a condition-based maintenance system for our substations and so forth. We're getting away from this idea of time-based, understanding more of the asset. But at the end of the day, you can put all the AI and so forth that you want on this, but you still need that human factor that understands the apparatus, that understands its history, that knows about the way that in which it should work and so forth. The way in which apparatus is even being built, like transformers, for example, I'm not a transformer expert by any stretch, that's for sure, but there used to be a big tolerance. You could go way over nameplate. Now you can't do that anymore. Right. The way that transformers are being manufactured, they're much tighter in the specification, right? But you also have stresses being put on transformers that you didn't have before, like the load tap changes are now changing position a lot more often because of the DERs being put in place. So that's changing. But workforce is something, you're right, very near and dear to my heart. It's something we need to all be involved in. At the end of the day, graduate students that are graduating even from their undergrad, what do they say? I want to change the world and make it a better place, right?
Yeah.
How can I make the world a better place?
Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, what better place to do that than the electric power industry?
Agreed.
We're all about decarbonization, sustainability, reducing our carbon footprint. Be part of this revolution.
Yeah.
So that's my charge to graduates, the high school students that are considering what do they want to do with their life. Come join the electric power industry because there's so much to be had here. In terms of electrification of the transportation system, that's going to take off.
Yeah.
They could be involved with that. Yeah, for sure.
It's a huge dynamic. There's a lot more. We could talk for hours about change and how change is being managed. I want to finish with something. We are at the Seagray Symposium 2023 for the U.S. National Committee. Talk about Seagray, and you're going to talk about after that about IEEE again, but talk about Seagray and what you all, Quanta, and what you personally see as the value.
Absolutely. So Quanta technology has always been a very active part of Seagray. As a matter of fact, IEEE and PES have signed a memorandum of understanding with Seagray. So both organizations work very, very closely together on various events, on initiatives, and so forth. You have to keep in mind that Seagray doesn't really write any standards or anything like that, whereas IEEE PES does. So we kind of put them both groups together and make the best of it. As far as Quanta goes with Seagray, we have the honor of hosting this event next year in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it's rightfully named Grid of the Future It's a really tough.
Is this an invite? This is
This is an invite. Absolutely, Alan. Absolutely. It's it'll be a great event. It'll be in downtown Raleigh next year, next fall of 2024. And yeah, grid of the future. And there are so many exciting things. Somebody mentioned this morning on a panel, they said, oh, I always see that there's one small presentation being given this week on AI. I bet next year, because this is the grid of the future, there may be 4 or 5 presentations on that. So it's always the leading edge topics that are discussed and debated and shared at events like this.
I think to add to that, IEEE standards, and they create a lot of really there's a lot of brainiacs creating standards. This is the practical application of many of those standards and the sharing with other people in the industry. Seagray brings a lot of that, where the power is, that's where the people are, right? And
that's
where the people are, that's where you need them collaborating. Last question. IEEE PES, you're going to be the chair of the Grid Edge Committee. The Grid Edge.
It's called the IEEE PES Grid Edge Technologies Conference and Exhibition. And it's held on non-T&D years.
Right.
So odd years. Yeah. And the next one will be in January of 2025 in San Diego. And San Diego Gas and Electric will be our host.
Excellent. Are you the chair ending for IEEE PES meeting coming up in April?
I am. So my term ends this coming December 31st. Okay. Under the bylaws of IEEE PES, we can only serve a maximum of 5 years. And so my 5 years is up. It's been a great run. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with folks like you, Alan, and all of the other volunteers. We have 45,000 members out there worldwide. It's been phenomenal, but I'm not going away. I'll always be a volunteer because I really believe in organizations like IEEE PES and Seagray, 2 great organizations.
I know you do. And on behalf of all of us that have benefited from the work that you've done, not just the last 5 years, but even before that, and the work that you're going to do. Thank you. I mean,
thank you, Alan.
It is a pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's been a great interview. I appreciate it. We will do this again. IEEE PES, that'll be your swan song. Okay?
All right. That sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan.